You're right, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Muscle Owl Talks. I'm here with John Hasty.
Hello.
How are you doing, John?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
Good. We were going to talk today about nutrition and Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy. This is something that you and some of the other guys at DMD Pathfinders have been looking at lately, and you have a report out about this in the next few weeks, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. The nutrition guide that we've been working on for a little while now, just gathering people's experiences to share and kind of tips, and working with some of the clinicians working in specialist clinics, just to get the best advice for people.
Yeah.
And living with Duchenne in terms of getting the best nutrition. And yeah, we're hoping to launch it in the in the near future. We don't have an exact date yet, but hopefully it'll be a resource that everyone can use. And another thing to mention, there's also a conference this weekend actually looking at nutrition over in the Netherlands, and so we've been feeding in the work that we've been doing into that workshop, which is going to look at where we are in terms of guidelines, but also looking at what research would be useful.
Yeah, is that conference specifically on Duchenne or muscular dystrophy with nutrition?
Yeah, it's quite a small conference just looking at nutrition in Duchenne. So
wow.
Yeah, quite targeted, quite specific. But yeah, hopefully the work that we've been doing can feed into that.
Yeah, and in terms of when you were setting out about this nutrition guide, was this something that you'd seen had been documented before? Were there different reports that you could look at? What kind of groundwork's been done on it so far?
Yeah, I mean, there certainly is. There's big gaps in the knowledge, and particularly in terms of adults. But I think there is stuff out there, but it's often quite focused in specific areas. Things like feeding tubes or swallowing, and then nutritional supplements. All these kind of all these separate areas. So yeah, what we were trying to do is kind of bring everything together in one resource that people could look at, and so that people don't have to trawl through academic publications to find the information that they need. It's also been a case of working with the clinicians who are kind of dealing with this every day in their clinics, and are kind of sources of quite significant experience and expertise themselves.
And in terms of what 15-year-old boy, or in fact, if we're talking about a boy, 12-year-old boy with Duchenne muscular dystrophy can or should eat, would it be different from what a 12-year-old boy that doesn't have Duchenne muscular dystrophy should eat? I think one of the reasons I'll ask that is because, like, for my brother, obviously 25 years old, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, I think growing up together, I've always seen we've kind of eaten the same things, except for sweets. He likes chocolates, but not sweets. I always used to say, I used to ask sometimes, is it because of his muscular dystrophy that he doesn't like sweets? He doesn't like, doesn't like the old fruit pastels. And, basically always been the same. And then when I started being friends with my fantastic great friend Michaela Hollywood, she has SMA type 2, and obviously feeding tube from an early age and all these different things. She has such a very strict regimen of what she can eat, what she can't eat, how certain things do certain things. In particular, I see a huge difference. I don't know. Is there a big difference between Duchenne nutrition and nutrition in general? And is there a big difference between Duchenne nutrition and nutrition of other types of muscular dystrophy, perhaps?
Yeah, it's interesting that you just asked that, because in the recent kind of recommended care guidelines that have just come out, then the broad recommendation in terms of the types of food that that people should eat is similar to the general population. Now part of that might be because there's uh, not really enough conclusive evidence as to specific foods that might be helpful or that should be avoided. But I think part of it, the considerations that you need to make when it comes to Duchenne are more around practical aspects, such as well, initially it's about maintaining a healthy weight and avoiding both obesity and undernutrition. But then when you start experiencing things like chewing and swallowing problems, then it's more about the textures of the food that you need to be considering, and foods that you might want to avoid just simply because of the physical effort required in chewing and swallowing. But in terms of like the constituent parts of the diet, then yeah, it's broadly similar to the general population. But again, that may change as there's more research done into kind of nutritional supplements and what you need.
Yeah, and I guess as well, for somebody outside the neuromuscular community might say, well, if somebody needs help with their muscles, would they have extra protein diet or extra things to help build their muscles? Is that the case nutrition-wise, or is that not a good thing?
So yeah, the recommended care guidelines does give an indication around protein, and generally kind of less protein is needed as you get older. But yeah, things are kind of, as I said, broadly similar to the general population. I think one thing that is important to mention in this context really is just being kind of wary of anything that's promising a kind of a quick fix for Duchenne in terms of nutrition. So there's been a lot of, well, I would say pseudoscience out there in terms of nutrition and how changing your diet can yield kind of massive benefits in terms of addressing conditions like Duchenne. It's important that we kind of check our sources and really look into any recommendations around diet in quite a lot of detail, really, and see who's recommending this, why are they recommending this, what's in it for them, and what people are actually saying who have the condition, and is any of these kind of recommendations backed up by scientific studies. I think it's really important that people are quite rigorous in actually evaluating any kind of claims like this. And
yeah, no, absolutely. I've seen too many videos of people saying they can cure muscular dystrophy over the years by some extra exercise and a good diet.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's important to recognize that some of the the supplements that we're looking at, there might not be a good evidence base, but that doesn't necessarily mean they don't work. You have to analyze it quite critically, i.e., you have to look, is there no evidence because it's been tested and shown not to work, or is there no evidence because there simply haven't been any trials on a certain supplement, say, in which case it might work, but what we would like to see is kind of greater testing of these things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in terms of, well, my brother, 25 years old, Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy, I think obviously he's tried to have a good diet. Some of the things that our mother has often pushed through the years, I think she was always always big on vitamins, always big on us getting cod liver oil and things when we were kids. And then when he was getting into his later teens, there was things like protein shakes. Do they help? And also green tea, which she's apparently that does great things for Duchenne. Is there any credence in any of these things?
Yeah, I'm not sure of the exact details, but I know there was you know, a recent study on green tea and green tea extract. So
Wow.
and I'm not sure what the ultimate results of that were, but I think this is something where, you know, the conference that we mentioned previously in terms of the research that's needed, that's where this comes in terms of thinking about what do we know and what do we need to know more about, and what are the kind of supplements that have been suggested that actually we need to study and evaluate their effects.
Yeah, absolutely. So this report's out in a few weeks or maybe a few months' time. We'll keep everyone updated around that. And yeah, any final thoughts before we close off?
Yeah, I think just in terms of you know, the key messages around nutrition um, for Duchenne is you know, to be mindful that the nutritional needs change as the disease progresses. Um, it's all about really kind of being wary of two different things, and that's the energy that you need and the energy that you're taking in, really. So uh, when you're, you know, when you're on steroids and your appetite is increased, and you know, there is a definite risk of obesity there, and I think that's particularly the case when people stop walking and they're generally using less energy. And so it's really important to be mindful of the fact that less energy is being used, so less energy needs to be taken in. But then what I think a lot of people don't realize is that as people get older and start to experience difficulties, which might be in terms of chewing and swallowing, and they also might be just in terms of a lack of appetite, which sometimes can be related to things like hypoventilation. And in those situations, particularly as you start to struggle to breathe, then um, you actually start using more energy again. So you need to be taking in more energy. So it's about kind of being continually mindful of about this energy balance, and like watching out for obesity when people are younger, but then watching out for undernutrition. And I think these things can tip and like change very dramatically and very quickly. So it's being conscious of the need to be aware of any changes so that you can act kind of preventatively, really.
Wow.
I think the other thing I would say just is in terms of how important it is to make sure you're looking after your nutrition, making sure that you're eating enough, making sure that you're not, you know, becoming overweight or underweight. And I think, you know, you should look at things like nutrition in the same way that you would look at, you know, other really central aspects of your health, like breathing. And it's just as important to get it right, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Well, it sounds like there's a lot of great findings that are going to be in this report. And, well, looking forward to the nutrition guide coming out in a few months' time.
Yep, and we shall let you know.
Awesome.
Cool.
We'll catch you in a bit, guys.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.